Hi and welcome to another Memories Made video. I'm designer Jen Gallacher and this is a scrapbooking tutorial video series. And in this month's series, I want to concentrate on color. For those of you that follow Pinterest, belong to Pinterest, or visit color inspiration blogs, you probably have seen a lot of images that look like this. And they're called color combos or color inspiration on Pinterest, and you can find them easily. In fact, I will make sure to link you to the board on my Pinterest page so you can see the ones that have inspired me. But basically the reason why I wanted to point out these is because these are a great source of color inspiration. There's a couple of different ways you can do that. One is that you take your photographs, such as this photo I'm going to use here, and you go in search of a color combination that has at least some of the colors in here. And you'll notice that this is a fall layout, and this particular color scheme would translate well for fall. So I looked for the oranges and yellows and browns in this color scheme, and I knew that because these particular colors were in this, that these more muted blues would easily work with this photo. Another way to use this is if you have a colored photo that maybe doesn't quite match this color scheme, but the color scheme conveys a theme or a feeling, you can change your photographs to black and white, and then you can use whatever color scheme you want. So basically today, we are going to look for embellishments and papers that use this particular color scheme. Now when I say embellishments and papers, I mean just that. I will print out or leave it on my computer and start pulling elements that match some of the items that I see in the color scheme. And you can see how I do that. Another thing that I'll do is I will look for pattern papers that are similar. And if it helps, definitely print it out. And you can see that I will start shopping for items that match this color scheme. Now, you feel free to go a little bit slightly different tone, meaning this particular blue is more of an aqua than this denim, but it still works. And so I'm going to go ahead and use this. You can deviate from the color scheme a little bit. So let's go ahead and make a layout based on this color inspiration. So we are going to start with a colored background that is in that blue color that we want to use. And then to add a little bit of subtle texture, I'm going to add a sheet of Simple Stories pattern paper to it right on top. And the blue is going to serve as the foundation for this layout. I'm going to turn it over onto the diagonal side. And I've pre-cut as many pieces as possible so that we can easily and quickly complete this particular layout. Now again, going back to the color scheme, remember I had some yellow in there. And this is some yellow from Little Yellow Bicycle. It is from a home and family collection, which also has fall elements in it. So it was a natural choice for me, and it's one that I recently purchased because I knew I wanted to do a fall layout. And I've pre-cut that to go just at the bottom of this blue pattern paper. Then a new collection from Echo Park Paper is called Reflections, and they also have an add-on collection called Reflections Fall, but this particular paper is from Reflections, and you'll notice that it has blocks of text. And what I did is I selected a thinner block of text, this particular strip here, and cut it so that it would fit at the bottom of my page. And I wanted to make sure that it said the phrase that I most was interested in using. And so I trimmed off, there's a little T right on this side, and I went ahead and trimmed it off. So think about how you can make the pattern paper or embellishments work for you in the best way. And I really wanted to use the text, so I wanted to make sure the text showed up. And so I cut out that particular strip from the pattern paper. To kind of start a cluster, I've picked this large basic gray element, and these are actually for mini albums, and you've seen me use this technique before. The reason why I always am attracted to these kinds of embellishments is they fill up large spaces on your layout, and I'm always about trying to get the layout done as quickly and as nicely as possible. You can see that it fills up almost a third of my layout, and I liked that. Again, here is the photo that I'm going to use. This particular photo was taken after school on a bridge near a local river, and my daughter and son have a hilarious relationship and she couldn't resist kissing him. As you can tell, he's absolutely thrilled to be kissed. And this particular photo is one of my favorites from the photo shoot that day. It wasn't planned, it just kind of happened, and so it honestly conveys their relationship, and I love that. Two Peas has a lot of these wood veneer shapes, and they are exclusive to Two Peas. You can also find other brands that make these, but these will easily fit in your Photo Freedom or Project Life pocket pages, but they also work on traditional scrapbooking pages. One option you can do is you can use your mist to recolor these, or you can use an ink pad brushed over the top. I wanted the natural wood elements, so I'm going to go ahead and use it as is. To adhere it to the page, I'm simply going to use some glue dots. They are strong enough to hold it. It could frame an additional photo, but look for ways that you can use it in a new way. I'm slightly going to overlap my photo. Then Jenny Bolin has some little cards that they're kind of like playing cards or flashcards, vintage flashcards. And at the top here, I've added a little tab from the Reflections Fall add-on from the Echo Park paper collection I mentioned before. And before I put it down, I want to add some texture to it, so I'm going to add some Tim Holtz paper clips. If you don't have Tim Holtz paper clips, you probably have a lot of school supplies on hand, as school just recently started for a lot of us. So go ahead and use whatever you have on hand. Tim Holtz ones are just a little bit smaller, which is a kind of fun size for this particular layout. Then back to the color scheme, I wanted to bring in some orange. So again, I'm going back to a collection from Little Yellow Bicycle. This is not from their fall collection. This is actually from a collection called Poppy. But the orange was almost dead on with the orange in this particular collection. So I have a little strip that I've pre-cut, and I'm going to gently fold it and cut it into a pennant. So the thing that I'll do is I'll shop my stash first, or you could take a color scheme and you could take it to your local scrapbooking store or shop online based on the color scheme. So there's a lot of different ways to make these color schemes work for you. Some of the washi tape I pulled was some from We Are Memory Keepers, or rather My Mind's Eye. This one's from My Mind's Eye. And this is an older one that I have. If you have any kind of brown or wood grain, I think that's a great look on a fall layout. We're just going to add a strip of that to this home card. We'll come back and decorate that a little bit more. From Card Postal by Basic Gray, there are some fun mustard colored elements. And this particular pattern paper, you can also get it in a 6x6 pad, has worlds on the other side, is a slightly darker mustard than the yellow background, but it works well. So that's what I was talking about when you can pick different tones. So although the main color was this bright yellow, you can go a shade darker or a shade lighter on your layouts by using elements like this. And then I took a Jenny Bolin tag and I added one of the little word tags that says I Love Autumn from the Reflections Fall collection. And we'll overlap that. Then I start to look for additional embellishments that I can use. From Farmhouse are these fun vintage looking Rolodex card or index card tab files. This one says Remember. And I'm going to add a little bit more to my cluster up here. And I can do that using stickers or tabs. I often use little tidbits from October Afternoon, and although the color scheme didn't call for green, because my son's shirt is green, I knew that I could bring in a little bit of green. From the Reflections Fall sticker is this fun viewfinder sticker, and it's a nice neutral cream, almost craft colored. And I'm going to add that to the layout. I look for elements that will work and are neutral, or I can look for embellishments that completely match. And we'll just adhere that. Then Amy Tangerine from an older collection had these fun leaves, and I've had them for a little bit. I got them on clearance at a 2-piece clearance sale. You could also cut these from cardstock if you desire. And you could also cut them from your Silhouette machine, or if you have a standard die cut machine, you could use them to cut as well. But I wanted a leaf element for this fall themed layout. So I am layering a mustard, a orange, kind of a poppy orange to match my poppy pattern paper down here, and a brown leaf. To this bottom tag, I have some cork pieces, and cork is a great way to bring in brown. So another way to bring in color is to look for items that have texture but that match the color. So we can use this cork color on this page. But the first thing I want to do is I recently purchased a fall stamp set from Ali Edwards, and I want to use a fall stamp on this layout. To stamp, I'm going to move some of the items out of the way and place a foam core underneath. Because I have so many layers already on the layout, I want to make sure I have a little bit of a give when I stamp into the page. I've selected the stamp image that says Celebrate Fall, and I'm using some brown stamping ink. You can use whatever ink color that you have on hand, and just make sure you pick one that dries quickly as you're going to be finishing this layout. Or if you have one that doesn't dry as quickly, then you can simply allow it to dry, set it aside and allow it to dry. So just a little bit of stamping goes a long way. So Celebrate Fall. Then to embellish the layout a little bit, I'm going to add a few different fun items. One are some wood veneer shapes, and these are from Studio Calico. And like I mentioned with this Today wood veneer shape, you could use an ink pad to make these wood veneer things just as dark as the Studio Calico ones. And I'll just use a glue dot to adhere it. And then to mix it up a little bit, I've taken a brown button and I've tied it with just natural twine. You could use any color of baker's twine that you want, or string. You could even tie it with ribbon. And then I also am going to add some sequins. And again, these are from Studio Calico. Two of them are gold and one of them is wood grain. Sequins are kind of like enamel dots. They also can replace spray splatters from spray ink. So depending on what look you like, you can replace any of these objects with the things that you have on hand and that you use regularly. For the journaling, I've printed it out on some craft cardstock. And again, I'm going to create a little bit of a pennant here just to make it a little more interesting. And then to help it stand out a little bit, I'm going to ink the edges with a stamping ink pad. And I do this with whatever soft ink pad that I have in the color and tone that I like. You can use chalk ink pads. You can use distress ink pads from Tim Holtz. Again, whatever works for you. We'll go ahead and adhere this on the bottom here. And then I'm going to add some of that orange washi tape that I pulled when I was shopping my supplies. Again, this is from My Mind's Eye, and it does come in a large roll. I'll also link on my blog some other options. Just any color of orange will work well. And then those chevron cork pieces I selected, I'm actually going to place them onto this washi tape and pattern paper. And I usually cut them out on the plastic background so I get a feel for how they're going to look on my layout before I finish them, placing them down on the layout. Then to this top tab, I am going to pull from the Reflections Fall Alphabet Collection. There are several different word strips that you can pick. There are several alphas, there's border strips as well. And I'm just going to pick A Wonderful Day. And I'm going to trim it down a little bit so that it fits inside that tab. And don't be afraid to cut your stickers to work for you. You can cut off words that maybe don't pertain to what you're trying to do, or you can cut it in a shape that fits better for you. This is what I'm going to do. And then to finish off the layout, I'm going to add a border strip. And I usually do that in a color that matches. I want to bring in a little bit more of the craft, so I'm going to use this craft cardstock. And this is the border punch I'm going to use. You can use any border punch you want, and you'll notice that it is not quite the same width as the layout, or rather that orange and blue pattern paper that I've picked. And that's okay. You don't need to have the border run the entire width of the paper you already have in place. You'll notice this is an older punch and it's not quite punching all the way through. I don't mind that, and I'll show you why. When I'm done, I simply rip out the pieces that didn't punch as well, and it gives me a nice distressed looking border strip, which is exactly what I want for this particular layout. And I can distress it even more by crinkling it in my fingers. I'm also going to add a little bit of stamping ink to it as well. Let's go ahead and trim it and add it to the layout. And this just adds a final nice texture to the bottom of the layout. Again, you can use pattern paper for this if you want. You can crinkle it a little bit more in your fingers. It's up to you. Again, I'm not worrying about carrying it all the way to the edge. I'm going to simply center it. And then for this upper and lower corner, I'm going to use something I use often, and that is some Canson photo stickers. And these are actually self-adhesive. Sometimes you have to lick them to make them a little bit moist, but these are ready to go. So there you have a layout that was inspired by this particular color scheme, which I found on Pinterest. And by using the color scheme, I've completed a layout that looks cohesive, and that's a great inspiration starting point. Thank you for joining me for today's Memories Made video. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of these videos in this series.